Hello, everyone, and welcome to Empty Cloud Italy and Empty Cloud USA. So I'm here with Aya Sobana, who's currently holding things down at Empty Cloud USA. And my name is Bante Sudaso, and I'm over in Italy. So we're here for our monthly monk chat session. So weekly monk chat session, so your chance to ask Dhamma questions and our chance to try to respond. So we'll go ahead and start with homage to the Buddha, and then if there's any questions, we'll answer some questions. And if there's no questions, then we won't. So if you'd like to hear some Dhamma statements, you can type in some questions and we'll answer them as they come in. So we'll start with homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Okay, so we have a number of people who have joined in already. So hello to Sud, to Gregory, Bhumika, Maria, and Manal. Welcome to all of you. And Jayanta, hello. And we have one question here from Sud. Sud is asking, Dear Venerables, given the huge snowstorm headed your way, do you need anything requisite-wise at Empty Cloud? Given that there's no snow here, I assume that's talking to Aya Sobana. So if you'd like to say something, Aya Sobana.
We're expecting to get 12 to 15 inches on Sunday, Saturday night, and then another 3 or 5 inches on Sunday. If donors who normally would offer food on Sunday want to bring some food on Saturday, we do have the 2 seminaries and 2 lay visitors during our winter retreat, and they have very kindly offered to warm up or offer anything that comes in ahead of time, considering the weather. Other than that, I'm not aware of any urgent needs or requisites.
Good. And a couple more people joining in online. Hello to Random Ramblings, Anis and Aldo. So Aldo is one of our lay supporters here in Italy. So Aldo says, how to practice contentment as a skillful means to enjoy meditation experience. Aya Sobana, what do you think about this?
Contentment is the highest austerity practice, and according to the Dhammapada verse. Contentment is a wonderful quality to cultivate that has the combination of being inclining towards peace and tranquility, and also inclining towards a light, bright heart. So entering into meditation, we want to have that lift and that brightness. And contentment really works that way. Contentment has the quality, although forgiveness is not such a big, doesn't have the same meaning in Buddhism as it has in Western religion. But contentment has an attitude of forgiveness, in the sense that whatever we are experiencing at this moment is the manifestation of all of the previous causes and conditions that led us to be this type of human being at this particular moment in our life. So therefore, we can accept those experiences that come to us, and still be able to make the choice. The choice we can make is how we choose to hold and observe those. So that's my thought about contentment.
Good. And Sud asks, are there any specific techniques you suggest lay beginners use in meditation to calm intrusive thoughts during meditation? Well, I mean, one thing that I would say that I have found really useful is to not problematize thoughts. Like when thoughts appear in the mind, instead of immediately thinking, oh, there's something wrong, I need to calm these thoughts, I need to get rid of these thoughts, I need to make the mind silent. Instead, we just don't make an issue out of it. We just accept that it's the nature of the mind, that sometimes the mind makes noise. And we don't actually need to force the mind to shut up, or we don't need to deliberately try to remove or eliminate thoughts. But rather, if we just don't make an issue out of the thoughts, if we don't see them as problematic, if we actually treat them as completely insignificant, meaningless, irrelevant, something completely negligible, then they won't distract us, and they won't disturb us, and they won't bother us, and they'll also tend to go away on their own, generally speaking, sooner rather than later. Usually, thoughts are only intrusive if we react to them, and they only are persistent if we are fueling them or feeding them or maintaining them in some way. So I found that just not making a problem out of thoughts is often the cleanest, simplest, and often also the fastest way of dealing with them. Otherwise, metta meditation, really you can never go wrong with metta meditation. That's a very wholesome way to use mental activity to help cultivate wholesome thoughts instead of unwholesome thoughts. Ayasobana, do you have any further thoughts on this topic?
Only to add that intrusive thoughts tend to be associated to emotions, and emotions are always manifesting in the body. So to turn one's attention to what's happening in the body, sometimes even after the mind has started to change, those chemicals in the body are still rushing about, and it takes a few minutes for the body to settle. But just with that attitude of patient contentment, watching how it's manifested there can help.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ayasobana. And then we have a question here from Random Ramblings who says, after contemplating death, watching an Asubha video, autopsy, reflecting on the 3 characteristics, etc., I feel like life is meaningless. Is this just a phase? How to proceed? Life also feels empty now. Ayasobana, what do you have to recommend for this?
Well, it's interesting. Both there's kind of a double meaning for the words that Random Rambling used. So to realize emptiness would be a boon, a great breakthrough in contemplation. To realize that going around and around of life in samsara is relatively meaningless is also can be a breakthrough and a good thing. I would say the one antidote is to the concerned sense that I have from this question is to reflect about karma and to realize that all the round and about of life, or to the cycle of samsara, is in a certain way meaningless. But the karma that we make is not meaningless. The karma that we make is super significant, super precious, super valuable. To remember that until we obtain the highest release, we are bound by karma, related to our karma, and we receive the results of our karma. So to really see the meaning and purpose, having a purposeful life in terms of non-harming.
Yeah, Ayasobana, I actually really like what you just said about how our karma is not meaningless. Our choices are not meaningless. I think that's actually a really important point here, because we do still have the ability to make choices that direct the mind towards the highest happiness and the highest peacefulness and the highest wisdom. So, and then we have a question from Annis, who says, holding space for all being impermeable. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. How can one better cultivate peace while still holding compassion for all the injustice happening towards our most vulnerable humans in the world? Well, one thing that I think is really worth remembering is that samsara is, by its very nature, a disaster zone. It has always been a disaster zone. It always will be a disaster zone. The very nature of samsara is that there is always bad things happening. There's also always good things happening, but there's always bad things happening. Nothing we can do will ever permanently fix samsara. Samsara is fundamentally impossible to fix. What we can do is to cultivate the path towards awakening. And along the way, we do also do what we can to help others, and we do what we can to alleviate the suffering of others, and we do what we can to try to make the world a bit nicer and a bit better. But we do so recognizing the inherent futility of trying to permanently, completely fix samsara. It's just not possible. So to some degree, we have to just cultivate equanimity and acceptance of the fact that we actually can't do anything about the fundamental nature of samsara. And what we do instead is we look for what we can do. So again, you can't stop all the injustice in the world, but you can at least stop contributing to it. You can't make everybody in the world nice people, but you can make yourself a nice person. And you can't make everybody in the world enlightened, but you can work on making yourself enlightened, or at least closer to it. So I think it's good to accept the nature of samsara as being fundamentally unfixable, but also do what you actually can do, which is to fix your own conduct, fix your own attitudes, and see what you can do to actually make your own little tiny world a little bit more perfect. Ayasobana, do you have anything to add to this question?
Only that the intention of justice is an aspect of compassion and loving kindness, and holding that intention can be powerful, just the way the practice of meditation and metta meditation, the practice of compassion can be powerful. The Buddha completely and fully saw the whole entire horrible picture of the misery of samsara. He saw all of it when he saw the past lives and all of the beings in the world being reborn in good and bad states according to their actions. And it was out of that the Buddha's breakthrough and the entire compassionate mission of the Buddha to present his realization to the world is derived from that. So living according to the Dhamma, speaking up according to the Dhamma is certainly something that can and should be done within Buddhism.
Okay, very good. And then we have a question from Gregory, who says, researchers say that strong emotions like anger and passionate interest can be healthy responses to conditions. Is acting on strong emotions like these always harmful in the Buddhist teachings? Well, I think one important thing to keep in mind is that odds are very good that those researchers are not Buddhist. Odds are very good that their value system is not Buddhist. Odds are very good that their evaluation of what is healthy and what is unhealthy is not Buddhist. Odds are very good that their evaluation of what humans are supposed to be like is, therefore, not Buddhist. So they might say that a healthy person can be angry and passionate and obsessed and so on, but that is not a healthy person from the perspective of Buddhism. That's a person who is deeply flawed and far from awakening. So we need to be realistic. Like, what are we actually talking about here? Again, if you go to an army sergeant and you ask them what a good, healthy person is, the army sergeant would say a good, healthy person is the one who kills people when I tell them to. Because from their perspective, that's actually the definition of a good person. From our perspective, that's really bad. So again, you need to consider what are the actual principles and values which these determinations are being made upon. So just because a researcher says it's healthy to be angry, well, healthy according to who? Healthy according to what system of values? Healthy according to what system of judgment and analysis? Certainly not the Buddhist one. From a Buddhist perspective, yeah, anger is bad, and acting on anger is bad. Obsession is bad. Craving is bad. These things are harmful, and we do need to do something about them, or else we're just going to be more and more miserable and get farther and farther away from awakening. Ayasobana, do you want to address this question as well?
This is a bit of a speciality of mine. I spent a lot of time looking into what those scientists were saying. The emotions are fundamentally diluted, but Gregory did have something right, that we have those emotions for a purpose of protecting our life. So if you want more and more life, including to be reborn again and again, then you may follow your emotions, and your emotions will help you to get more and more life. But if you come out of delusion and become well established in wisdom, then you make room for those wholesome emotions to help you, which are informed by wisdom. So you could say that loving kindness, compassion, even the energy of right effort, the investigation of Dhamma, those things all can be energized by positive emotions, informed by wisdom.
All right, and then we have another question from Daphne who says, how do we eliminate the psychological response? I assume this is a reference to an earlier question, but I'm not sure which earlier question. It says, how do we eliminate the psychological response, the anxiety, the pit in the stomach, the pain in the body? Ayasobana, do you have an idea how to respond to this?
Well, those responses are the fruit of things that happened before. And so by the time that's already come up, in a way, it's too late. So you need to then patiently sit with those reactions and allow them to, in a way, play out and wear themselves out and come to their ending. So that's when those kind of reactions have already came up. If you want to prevent the arising of those kinds of painful psychological reactions, if you will become well established in the perception of impermanence, dukkha, and non-self, then those perceptions, when they become habitual, are the greatest protection against those reactions.
Okay, and then we have a question here from anyone at the end of time who says, what are your thoughts on Tikmin Tue? Are there any similar historical cases of monks recognized for their Dhutanga practice by lay people, but not recognized by the local sangha? So I actually don't know much about this person. I just looked briefly into it. And so it appears that this was someone who, it's unclear to me whether or not he was actually ordained as a Buddhist monk, or if he's just a lay person who decided to start following ascetic practices and like being a wandering alms mendicant. And question of people who live an ascetic life but aren't recognized by religious authorities, yeah, that's been happening since forever in literally every religion everywhere, because fundamentally, we actually don't care whether or not we're recognized by authorities. That's not the purpose of our life. The purpose of our life is to try to follow the Buddhist teachings. And actually, the Buddha spoke over and over again about how dangerous things like fame and honor and praise are. That these things, he called them bitter, obstructive, vile, things that get in the way of our path to awakening. Like when we are drawing positive attention from the public, then that can actually make it harder for us to practice well. So often choosing to become a renunciant, ascetic, austere monk, whether one is officially ordained or not, is actually beside the point in this case. But choosing to live that kind of lifestyle is something that ideally one does it because one wants to try to reach the highest goal of Buddhist practice. And often it's actually not widely appreciated. Often it's actually not respected, especially by, again, religious authorities. So this particular monk, apparently the branch of the Vietnamese government that controls monks in Vietnam, they were not happy with this particular person. But again, that doesn't mean that they're a bad monk. It also doesn't mean that they're a good monk. It's just beside the point. Just like throughout the history of Catholicism, there's been many cases of really amazing Catholic monks who were condemned by the Vatican, imprisoned by the Vatican, excommunicated by the Vatican, but then after their death, they were venerated as great saints. And we have the same thing in the history of Buddhism. There's many cases of wonderful monks who were publicly ostracized or criticized and only later on recognized for their valuable practice, the benefits of their practice. So, Ayasopana, do you have any comments on this topic?
No, that's good.
Okay. And Tim says, I'm still trying to understand the place of the suttas in my Buddhist practice. Are they fables intended to give a lesson, aka the raft, or closer to a gospel equivalent? Or are the suttas just remnants of translated historical written records that is simply what we have to practice from, aka demystified attitude on them? Ayasopana, would you like to talk about this?
The suttas are not intended to be taken as a gospel in the Christian sense, that one must believe in them, and the believing is what's going to bring you to salvation. That's not the purpose at all, and that's like really beside the point. I would take the suttas as primarily guidance for the path to liberation. Many suttas are most effective when they're read as like a guided meditation. Take sentence by sentence and make that a theme of meditation to contemplate what those ideas bring up for you. And then the story aspect of the suttas are indeed a record of, in part, a record of what of the Buddhist life and of the culture of that time. And the stories can give resonance and more of a heart significance to the context of the teachings. Some of the stories are obviously stories, and as stories, it's perfectly okay to take them as fables, which are also intended to give a more direct, intuitive way of understanding. So I would say take the suttas as you're able to. So if you're able to, in a sympathetic way, enter into the thought world of the suttas, take the suttas that you're able to read and understand and find meaningful to you, and work and reflect on those suttas. The ones that are incomprehensible, leave them to the side because you're not yet able to understand them. But with time, you will be able to.
Okay, good. Thank you, Ayasobana. And also on the topic of the suttas, Rebecca says, when I read the suttas, most are directed towards monastics who are much further along the path than I am. It can feel discouraging to me. Any advice? In the meantime, I stick with precepts/basics. Well, Rebecca, first of all, it's good to recognize that you're practicing with the precepts and the basics, because realistically, that's what most of us are doing. So you can actually focus on just doing the basics for 99% of your time, and that's great. So practice generosity, follow the precepts, practice mindfulness, practice equanimity, practice contentment, practice renunciation. Practice humility. So just keep doing the basics, and eventually, if you keep doing the basics, then eventually the things in the suttas that seem out of your reach will no longer seem so much out of your reach. But of course, it is natural. A lot of the content in the suttas is going to seem pretty far along the path, because Buddhism has extremely high ideals. And the Buddha was very clear about what we're aiming at. Like, we're not aiming at some slight improvement. We're aiming at a complete transcendence of all defilement and delusion. We're aiming at the complete transcendence of all self-identity, of all self-centeredness. We're aiming at the complete transcendence of existence and non-existence. I mean, we're talking about something really lofty. But the way we get there is actually very concrete. It's just one step after another. Be nice to people. Pay attention to what you're doing. Be patient. Be kind. Practice contentment and renunciation. Practice humility. It's just simple stuff. But step by step, you get closer to the final goal. So just keep doing the basics. It's totally fine. Ayasobana?
Yes.
Okay. Then Thinnery said, I assume Kamadeepa? Is that the name now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Kamadeepa says, what is the Dhamma technique to prevent from getting emotional? Maybe emotions have something to do with viewing a self. Ayasobana, do you have something to say on this?
I don't necessarily recommending trying to cut off the emotions, but instead, with emotions comes a lot of thinking, and the thinking tends to create a synergy. So the thinking is like rationalizing the emotions and making the emotions get more emotional and more fixated. So then, if you are able to be very alert and to avoid getting caught up in those rationalizations that comes alongside of the emotions, then the emotional responses can be quite short-lived, and they may just come up quickly and then go down. Eventually, it's not good to have, like, if it's anger or some afflictive or negative emotion, you don't want them coming up even for 5 seconds. You want those emotions to be cut off. But you will find that gradually, with practice and with the cultivation of wisdom, especially, like I said before, into the 3 marks of really reflecting, developing the perception of non-self, impermanence, dukkha, and non-self, that will disarm the emotional reactivity.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, on a similar line of thinking, also the way I tend to relate to this is that we don't try to stop ourselves from getting emotional because it's normal that emotions appear in the mind. Rather, we don't take the emotions seriously. So when emotions appear, we don't take them seriously. We don't identify with them as me or mine. We just watch as they come and go, and we try not to act on them. But we also, again, just don't make a big deal out of it. It's like, okay, so an emotion is there. Okay, big deal. Yeah, it's kind of like hearing your next door neighbor playing your music really loudly. It's like, well, okay, can't really do anything about it. But we can choose not to be affected by it. So it's a similar thing with emotions. Sometimes they appear, whether we want them to or not, but we choose not to be affected by them.
My mantra towards my own emotions is thank you for sharing.
That's good. Okay. Then Mano says, I was chanting the reflection on universal well-being yesterday. What does freedom from anxiety mean? How does one move forward from this if it's bubbling up constantly? Well, I was just looking at this chant. I think what's translated as freedom from anxiety in Pali is anigo. And anigo means more like untroubled or undisturbed, unbothered. So it's related to equanimity. So it's not, so of course, equanimity also means not having anxiety. But in this case, I think it's referring more to the ability to observe whatever's currently going on in body and mind, and accepting that this is just the way things are. And maybe, of course, we're like, oh, it'd be nice if things were different, but the truth is they're not different. This is just what it feels like. So you look at your mind and you're like, well, this is what the mind feels like right now. And it's like, okay, that's its nature. It's the nature of the mind to feel this way sometimes. But in this way, we're not troubled by it. We're not bothered by it. It doesn't afflict us. It's just something that we're aware of, flowing through the field of experience. So this is a very simple and direct way of dealing with it. Another thing that's really helpful, by the way, is reflecting on your own goodness, reflecting on the good karma that you've made, the good deeds that you've done, recognizing that you've created the conditions to have positive circumstances both in this life and in future lives. So you don't actually have to fear the future. And also, the more you cultivate your Dhamma practice, the more you cultivate the necessary tools to be able to face any imaginable circumstance. As you cultivate patience and kindness and mindfulness and equanimity, then you can face any situation. Whatever happens, you'll be ready for it when it happens. So also then we don't have to fear the future, because we know that whatever comes up, we'll be able to respond to it in accordance with Dhamma. So these are some contemplations that can help to reduce our tendency to get caught up in anxiety. Ayasobana, do you have anything to add to this subject?
It seems to me the opposite of anxiety is tranquility. And I think it would be very useful to ponder and reflect about tranquility. The Buddha said, whatever we think and ponder on becomes the inclination of the heart. So if we think about practicing for tranquility, notice when those tranquil moments come up for us, notice what conditions are supporting that inner tranquility, then that becomes an inclination. It becomes a habit, and that helps to, it would be the opposite of dwelling on the things that cause anxiety and making a habit of anxiety.
Okay, good. And that looks like the last question. So we might be finishing a bit quicker today. It's a bit of a shorter session today. So thank you, Ayasobana, for all of your wonderfully wise and practical answers. And thank you also to all the people online who contributed their questions. And I think we can go ahead and conclude at this point with 3 sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, very good. And we'll see you all next time.